Good morning. Gen AI in content, hyper-personalized customer experiences, omnichannel engagement, user privacy concerns. Oh my God. Marketers today are navigating an unprecedented level of complexity. The tools and strategies that once drove success for all of us are no longer enough. In 2025, the need for AI-powered, human-led, ethical marketing is more critical than ever. And that's exactly what we are going to discuss today. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our webinar, Marketing Trends 2025, where we will decode the full future of marketing in an AI world. As innovation accelerates and customer expectations evolve, let's explore what's next for marketers and how we can stay ahead of the curve. I am your host, Arwinder Kaur, Vice President Marketing at Grazitti Interactive. And I'm very thrilled to have all of you join us today. Thank you very much. At Grazitti, we have seen firsthand how AI and automation are reshaping marketing globally. Being leaders in digital innovation ourselves, we have helped businesses in many industries worldwide build engaging communities, enhance customer engagements, relationships, and make a lot of data-driven decisions through their marketing automation. With over 1,100 clients worldwide, we continue to bring strategic expertise to brands and help them adapt and lead in an evolving tech landscape. This will be a fantastic next 1 hour of time where we, myself, and my co-speakers on this webinar will talk to you through lots of strategies and tips by which marketers can really navigate through this AI world. Let me now introduce to you our co-speakers on the webinar, starting with David. Hi, David.
Hey, Arwinder. Great to be here.
Yes, thank you, David. David is an executive advisor in digital and marketing transformation, a senior fellow at Harvard Business School. With career spanning over 30 years, David has guided startups, private equity firms, and global enterprises in reshaping their strategic directions and driving marketing. Recognized thought leader in marketing strategy, David's insights have driven industry innovations and helped brands lead the way. And David recently published a very interesting book, which we will talk about very soon. It's my another co-speaker, Helen. Hi, Helen.
Hi, Arwinder. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Helen is an independent board director, founder and CEO of Tigon Advisory Corporation, and host of CXO Spies. A recognized thought leader in AI, cybersecurity, and digital transformation, she's contributed to multi-billion-dollar growth at companies like Oracle, Adobe, and Marketo. Helen offers fractional CXO services to help companies scale. Thank you, David. Thank you, Helen, for being with me today on this show. And let's get started. I'm sure our audience are excited and waiting anxiously to hear what we would like to share with them about our perceptions and suggestions. So let me start with the first question. We all know marketing is undergoing a rapid transformation driven by AI and data-centric strategies. Growing privacy concerns and audience fatigue also present some challenges in today's world. With all these shifting dynamics, how do you envision the future of 2025 for marketers and the marketing function as a whole? Very important basic question, but let's start with this. I'll request David to speak a few words and then we come to Helen for your thoughts as well.
Sure, Arwinder. I actually think we are at an inflection point for marketing where so many of the tools that are involved can go in one of two ways. One is we have the ability to use automation to create all kinds of content. We have the ability to have lots of data, to have lots of different triggers and amass large-scale lists of customers we want to go after, and it could lead to bombardment. And that would not be in the best interest, but it's very tempting for a lot of marketers to go down that path, to just simply say, more, we can do more, versus saying we can be smarter. And where I'm seeing the companies who are starting to get lift in their marketing, they are being much sharper about what they are doing. They are finding creative ways of getting data about their customers beyond which just through their own interactions and their system. So even beyond first-party data, they're doing things like asking people questions, having games where people can provide some more information. They're capturing what happens in call centers and digitizing that. And they're using that to create much more personal, well-timed interactions. And we can get through some examples in just a bit. But they are seeing less is more. It's being driven much more by triggers that are relevant for a particular time and context. And they are testing and testing and testing what is the best way to connect with a customer on their terms. So I think if things go right for marketers, there's an opportunity for marketers to actually increase their impact to their companies dramatically. And I'm seeing some pretty impressive numbers, but it takes a point of view of saying, we're going to put the customer first. We're going to think about them and what's the right thing for the moment versus just using all these tools to create more and more.
Nice. Helen, what are your thoughts?
Well, I can't agree more with David, right? And less is more, absolutely. Marketing is not about selling a product. Well, of course you want to sell, but it's not the only purpose, right? It's about delivering that remarkable experience so that people want to buy from you, right? And then that emotional hook you created is so critical. But creating more content to bombard people with the irrelevant content doesn't really help, right? I actually came across a couple of eye-opening stats recently. 58% of customers change brands with each purchase cycle, and 70% of the brand choices are made early in the customer journey when they're first triggered to shop. Right? That's quite interesting. It's actually very different from many years ago, right? I remember, if you buy a pair of shoes, Nike, you stick with that, and now you work with a younger generation, they keep swapping brands, right? And before you even notice, wow, there's another brand that pops up. So that shows just how challenging it can be to generate customer loyalty. And also that could be viewed as massive opportunities for brands because they can connect early to drive or win customers over, right? So I do definitely agree with David. We talk about technology, agility, customer intelligence, that can make a huge difference in terms of for marketing set companies apart.
Yeah, I just read a few days ago that companies know what to they build products or know what to they offer just products or services. Successful companies offer right customer experiences. And at times, tools and technology today are enabling us to craft those experiences, deliver those experiences, whether it's on different channels or through, we call it tools or human touch, whichever. And so thank you so much. That was absolutely insightful. Less is better. Smarter marketers have to become smarter, sharper, and make intelligent decisions going forward. Coming to a second question, marketers are actively leveraging AI in shaping how their campaigns are built, how they're executed. We today have seen that even the marketing mix is being tested by AI tools for better outcomes, more impact, and so on. Now, with all these the majority of marketers using AI in their day-to-day lives, how do you see marketers' workflows changing? The marketing processes changing, the workflows changing, and shaping differently with the help of these tools.
I actually love this question, Arwinder. So let's begin with the reality of marketing campaigns, right? A recent study of 57,000 TV ads found that 60% were boring. If you compare that to a 22-second clip of cow eating grass, actually generated a stronger emotional response than 55% of the ads. Even more concerning, right? Only 17% of ads spark high emotional engagement. according to Peterfield research. That's really interesting stats there. As a board director at Kinfolks, an AI-powered marketing transformation agency, I've seen firsthand how AI is not just really assisting marketers, but actively reshaping how campaigns are built and executed. Last July, we actually launched OG.ai, right? It has been fascinating to witness how it transforms the day-to-day marketing process. The tool itself, there are many other tools obviously in market. It uncovers real-time customer trends, behavioral insights, enabling us to create detailed customer personas and journeys that pinpoint key moments from awareness to purchase. I think about it by turning these insights into actionable content plans, generating tailored content blueprints for sales, and automatically producing high-quality content at scale. We're not only ensuring consistency and relevancy across various channels, but also saving a significant amount of time by doing that. AI really allows us to craft content with a deeper emotional hook, building that stronger connection with our target audience. And I really believe that AI is reshaping the way we approach and execute marketing campaigns today.
Yes, indeed. Completely agree with you. David, I have an interesting question for you coming, but let me hear your thoughts on the same point first.
Yeah, sure. Let me give an example of how things are changing. So a telecom company that I work with would normally have big push campaigns. It's time to upgrade your iPhone. Let's just push that out, an upgrade offer. And they're constantly just running these big campaigns. And what they started to realize is that not even the conversion rates, the open rates on their emails, for example, click-through rates on the ads were plummeting. And so they had to take a different approach. And AI proved really valuable in this. So what they did was they used AI to start looking for patterns in all of their data, and they have vast amounts of data of what is potentially driving attrition. Because the main thing is you want people to upgrade because you don't want to lose them as a customer. And so they were looking for patterns, and what they quickly realized, which they should have anyway, is that there were customers who were on monthly plans that were not right for them. And those customers were actually spending more than they should because they were on the wrong monthly plan. And so they focused on those particular customers with a pitch that actually admitted that their customers, that customer could go on a better plan and save money with the telecom provider, and then offering them also some extra hardware in addition to an upgrade in order to stay, get the upgrade, get the additional hardware, and go on a higher cost monthly plan that actually in the end would save them money. And the response rates on that were 4 times what they had before. And so they're using triggers to come up with that, but then they were using AI capabilities to do all kinds of testing. And so they're doing multivariate testing. They're testing the offer, the timing, the creative behind it, the way they worded it. And they're using tools to run all of these tests. That is totally different from a marketing operations than just saying, we've got a campaign, who should we push it to? Let's just target it. It's being much more responsive to data about an individual. It's constantly thinking about how to drive the next best action. And so they've really flipped their mindset from being just an operation that pushes to being more programs that are constantly looking for triggers that they can use for marketing. So that's a huge change in perspective and operations that's now possible.
I love that example of telecom, and I'm tempted to state here that at Grazitti Interactive, and as all of us actually have done this ourselves in the last few months or many months of streamlining and tightening our email campaigns And our customer loyalty programs faces the same thing, using AI at every stage and continue to fine-tune, refine, and we have also seen that. So I think your telecom example, thanks Helen for your example that how TV ads can be boring, but emotions can be triggered by this very smart, crisp content, and how AI is helping marketers, do that to elicit the right response from the customer. So interesting. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's a great example, actually. I would say what worked yesterday may not work tomorrow, right? It's constantly evolving. That's a fun part of marketing, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, we no longer rely on just A/B testing today. We have come far in the basic A/B testing. Okay. David, I told the audience about a recent book that you published on personalization. So we are reading that 2025 year is going to be the year of hyper-personalization. I'm sure every marketer agrees. But while this trend has already been there for a while, we are all crafting our messages as to make them as personalized and customized as possible. AI is undoubtedly changing the game dramatically. You have written about personalization and omni-channel marketing in detail in your book. Would you like to share a few abstracts from the book about how do you explain the impact of AI on crafting great customer experiences?
Yeah, sure. So we're now, in terms of the way we think about brands, actually in our lives being drawn to brands that are using customer information about us to give us value. If you think about Spotify, Uber, Netflix, a lot of digital native companies have realized that from their core. But now other companies established companies are starting to do this. And there's an interesting statistic that I want to share, that when we did the research for the book, which did the research and wrote it together with BCG, and they've now started an annual survey of consumers around the world and looking at their attitudes towards how companies are using information about them. In the US, 70% of consumers, and it's pretty standard across age groups, say they have done more business with brands that have used information about them appropriately. And by the way, in India, where a lot of Grazitti's operations are, it's closer to 90%. But interestingly, on the flip side of that, 2/3 of consumers said they've stopped doing business with brands that used information about them inappropriately. And so you gotta think about customer value and how you can actually change the experience so that your marketing actually empowers people. So I gave that telecom example before, but there's now, there's so many different kinds of tools. Let me give just another example of how personalization can work. One of the companies I've worked with is in the mental health field. They're called Sonder, and they help match people with mental health therapists. And so it's hard to find a therapist that's going to work for you. So how does Sondermind do that match and do it in a way that feels appropriate to you? Well, they bought a company that has a gamified way of looking at 12 different dimensions of your brain. So you play these games, and then it tells you all kinds of things about how your brain works. And then that information is used to help create a match with a therapist, and then is also used to help that therapist come up with a plan for helping you. And then 3 months later, you do a different bunch of games and you start to see how you've progressed. That's personalization. That is really thinking about how to use the tools. And so there's many different layers of AI going on in that. There's the games, that how they work and how they have actually figured out how the games relate to different kinds of brain patterns. There's a lot of medical research behind that. There's AI in interpreting all of the different therapists and the way their therapies have worked and which patients have done better with them or not. and then AI as they're actually doing their therapy to interpret what they're doing, and they actually help the therapists in giving them feedback on ideas for the program with their patients. So healthcare has just an enormous amount, but it's just an example of using interesting ways to get more data that can then allow you to personalize. And so we're seeing more and more companies expanding their use of this. I mean, Bonvoy, so Marriott, Bonvoy, the loyalty program under Marriott. Peggy Rowe, who is the Chief Experience Officer, has talked about how they have explicit plans where they ask people information about themselves. They ask frequent business travelers, where would you like to go on your next family vacation? What kind of amenities do you like when you check in your room? And they gather all this information. You as a Bonvoy member can see that information that they have on you. You can edit it, change it. And then they use that in their marketing and their service experience and such, and they blended that into their operations. So these are companies who are thinking first and foremost, not about how to just pitch, but actually think about how they empower customers. And that's a big part of our book, is how to think about personalization not as a marketing tactic where you're just trying to get someone's name or play around a little with creative, but to actually think about your value proposition, empowering customers to feel like they can do things, make choices, learn things that they just couldn't before. And that's a big change in perspective, but it is, like I've talked through with the examples, something that's possible now, and the companies who are doing it are seeing stronger results.
So, thoughts from you, Helen, on this? Katie, would you like to add in personalization front?
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely echo what David said. And one of the best example I can give is Marketo, right? And I was lucky to be able to work with both Adobe and Marketo. Marketo now is part of Adobe, learn from the best marketers in the world. For those of you who've been around for a while, you know Marketing Nation community, right? Marketo built this Marketing Nation community is for the marketer, by the marketers. And what I learned so much from this, right, they grew to more than 500,000 members. And what the most successful part of that is not to sell Marketo product, right? They let people share their personal career growth within marketing, right? How you turn from a junior marketer all the way to a CMO. Their success story inspires others to follow, right? And then they generate engagement. Every time you really drive engagement in the community, you get a badge, whatever that is. You can earn a free ticket to the annual conference, for example. Or that really inspires so much engagement within the community, and people love participate, right? And then to me, it's not about selling the product. You create that experience people want to be part of. You really create a movement. That's what marketing is about. And Adobe is another example where every year I go to their annual conference, they would have their customers create less than a 3-minute video to talk about their experience with Adobe. The best marketing to me is the personalized experience that you have other people talk about you rather than you talk about yourself, right? All those are hyper scalable personalization that really makes a difference. But personally, I'm a Netflix viewer, as you know. We're always busy throughout the week. You got 2 hours, you're the weekend, you want to kick back and relax. I don't want to spend 30 minutes to figure out what I want to watch, right? What I love about Netflix is that they recommend based on your, history, exactly your viewing history, your reading. They suggest the content that resonate with you, and 90% of the time is right on, right? And I follow their recommendation. It wouldn't go wrong. So I can save that 30 minutes to figure out what I'm gonna watch. So to me, that personalized experience really matters. It sets brands apart.
Yeah, actually, I want to pick up, Helen, on the video you mentioned, because AI is enabling a lot more in terms of video capabilities that can drive personalization. Just to give another example, when I was Chief Marketing Officer at Aetna, Aetna is a health insurance company. In the US, most people do not understand their health insurance. That is a problem. It's a problem for companies like Aetna because people do things that aren't covered by the plan. They get pissed off. They call into customer service, costs us money, costs goodwill. It's not good. So we had to figure out how to educate people better about it. And so I'm not exactly sure how we found them, but we found a service called Sunday Sky that generates personalized videos. And these aren't sexy, elegant videos. They're simple animations, but they stitch together with information about the individual customer. So we could actually say, Helen, this is your particular health plan. This is who in your family is covered. Oh, your husband doesn't have a primary care physician assigned yet? Here are 5 near you who are taking new patients. Click here to schedule. Here's 3 urgent care centers near you, so you don't have to go to an emergency room. Here's how your particular co-insurance, deductibles, all of that work. That was a home run. 70% of people watched the 3.5-minute video. Calls to the call center went down by over 20%. Net promoter score went up. So there's opportunity. I mean, that's a simple thing from a personalization perspective. It didn't take a hell of a lot of data. You can get that going. There are tools like that now, whether it's Sunday Sky or others. And so video is very impactful. And now with AI, you can personalize it much more. So it's something for people to explore.
Absolutely. I can use some of those help, David, and it takes too long to schedule any healthcare appointment these days.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. You know what? We understand that AI is what's best when it's got a lot of historical data to munch over, and then it will give you a lot of, it can be used for predictive as well. However, what you said, David, 3 examples, and Helen, marketers still have a challenge because while AI is at our beck and use, but we need to really craft those creative campaigns, find those creative ways through which we extract the information from the users, because the user has to be willing to share the personal information, and only then can AI be adopted or put to use to craft the response back to a customer. So I'm glad marketers' creativity still is the biggest power we have, and we will be there, really reigning forever. But I want to ask Helen Yu a very important question. Whenever I use Gen AI tool, and I'm so amazed at the way the great content comes out neatly, nicely, so quickly. We do understand AI streamlining content creation, curation, like never before. But how do brands maintain their unique, voice in such an AI-dominated era where there is content created by AI? So how do brands, any brand, marketing brands, really create a balance of automation with human touch to prevent any robotic interactions? We've got examples.
Yeah, I would say don't jump into content creation right away, right? Take a pause, think about what do you really want to walk away, or what do you want your audience to walk away from that piece of content you want to generate before you even do anything. I usually, take a walk, think about how do you connect with your audience better, right? I mentioned, we talked about earlier that emotional hook is so important, right? Marketing is not about you. It's nothing about you. It's about your ideal customer, right? How do you generate more engagement? So I also want to say that the benefit of AI is not just content creation, right? It obviously speeds up, but it also it speeds up for everybody. So you may lose your advantage, right? And then so you have to really use that wisely. And recently, I've been collaborating with Kiva, an insurance tech company. They offer modernized end-to-end claim processing platform for life and annuity insurance. So we actually aligned their sales white space analysis with prospects attending upcoming marketing events. And then we leverage AI to analyze each prospect through, price releases, website searches, and more information about the prospect. That really allowed us to create a personalized event briefing book for every single attendee. For example, we discovered one of the prospects is passionate about supporting veterans, and we had 2 existing customer success stories that highlighted our work with veterans. So we then crafted a tailored email for the sales team to reach out to the prospect and schedule a meeting ahead of the event. By providing the sales team with a key talking point prior to the event, we help them prepare for more effective meetings. With AI, we can really track success through CRM, better measure the outcomes, and accelerate the sales cycle. And to me, content generation is the only small component of marketing. Demand generation, accelerate the time to value, all those can be part of the benefit of AI. But use that wisely, because just jump right into content creation probably will have reverse effect.
Yeah, I mean, just like for developers and software coders, they started adopting AI by using AI to partly develop and write code. So then, for a marketer, the very first natural step to adopt AI has been, we've seen an industry told us that this has been put to use for content generation, creation, and presentation most effectively. But yes, AI has now permeated into many other facets within marketing. Communication is not the only way AI is being leveraged, but any examples that get it done, this topic of...
Yeah, I love Helen's example with the veterans. That's just fabulous. The other thing, so many of these content creation engines, be it Jasper, Writer, the way they want to help you adopt your brand style is for you to give them access to your content library of stuff you've already created, and then they use AI to interpret that. And that's good. I mean, that's useful. But you really have to also step back and say, what is my brand about in this world? In teaching at the Harvard Business School, it's just astonishing to me how people are thinking of marketing as just the tactics, and we constantly have to pull them back to say, wait, there's a strategy here. That takes humans to develop that strategy. What really is your value position? How are you helping your customers grow, solve problems, get something cheaper, whatever it is? Help them aspirationally? What is your brand? And that might be changing a bit as you have new capabilities for AI. So let me give you an example. A client of mine who's in distribution business, distribution of construction products. So, tiles on roofs and siding and all of that. And, you'd think, okay, they're just a distributor. And so most of what they're trying to do is be fast, be cheap, and have it in stock. But what they're realizing now with AI is they can be a problem solver. They can actually help customers figure out good, better, best alternatives, help them think through how to put together a better proposal for a project. And so they are now really a partner in growth for a business. That's very different than just, we got your stuff and it's cheap and fast. That's a movement in brand. And so from a marketer's perspective, we're at a time where, because of what you could do, and if you choose to pursue that, your brand may be morphing a bit. And you've got to get back to real brand strategy. What is our message, our voice? Who are our customers? What are the key things? And really take a fresh look at that versus just rolling over what you've been doing and letting an AI optimize against the old stuff. Things may be moving. Customers are moving. Things are not set. That's what you said, Helen. Things are constantly changing. And so I think it's really important now to, at the same time using AI for new capabilities, you got to get back to, therefore, what are our basics in terms of our brand?
Yeah, I definitely echo what David said here, Arwinder. You have to understand what problem you're trying to solve, right? What is unique value that you really bring to the market that no one else can bring? If you got those two first get these two questions answered before you go out create content, because otherwise you're just going to be one of the brands and generating the same contents in the market.
Yeah, I mean, certainly your words are absolutely wise, and I really appreciate that. My point here, or another question here is, how much is enough? You started by stating why the coherent about Nike. You want to buy shoes, Nike, you just buy Nike again. It's fine. You go to drink Milo, and you would perhaps go and drink Milo again. But AI is now, making customer experiences more. And then sometime in between, we also talk about personalization, information gathering. But then the privacy issues come. So, to what extent can we leverage AI and automate our messages or customize our messages where it's not too much intruding into their lives, and yet the touch is maintained, that subtleness is maintained, because the brand is all about experience. It's all about that subtle memory in my mind, that feeling. If I am over communicated, if I'm too finely hyper communicated, have you seen or heard experiences or examples where people said, oh, that looks too robotic, it's purely AI generated, I'm not going to be moved by it. I'm not going to take action in response to the scan. So how much is enough? That's a question as marketers, we constantly battle, we experiment, but any word suggestions from you are very helpful, going to be helpful to us.
Yeah, I think enough is enough, is what I'm going to say. You talk about how boring the marketing content is, right? I watched Super Bowl this past year. This year, super disappointed about the quality of the ads, right? The old days, those, ads, stick with you for years, right? But that being said, we have to, we can laugh about it. Marketers needs to really shift, have a different mindset, right? You gotta be very disruptive, because if you're just doing the same as what you do, and you won't really jump out of the page anymore. But, there are a lot of risk we're talking about here, right? It is, there's not just a financial risk, there's operational risk, strategic risk, or, with your reputation damage, could be cyber risk there. So we have to be very mindful about, the consequences of using AI. As everybody uses them, either you allow them to use, not allow them to use, their shadow AI out there. So for team or for company, you have to be aware, right? These risks, and data privacy and security, super important for you to understand. You could expose, AI could expose sensitive data. There could be breaches or reputation damage. So, or AI can perpetuate bias and generate misinformation. You gotta have human in the loop to manage that. And then there's AI, the bad actors can leverage AI as well, make your system more vulnerable. So the few things I would recommend as marketers, or even companies in general, we need to minimize data collection. If you're going to collect data, you should let your customers or anybody you collect data from to understand what data you're collecting from them, where you're going to use them, where you're going to store this data, and then so that they can, let them give you the consent to do so, to avoid the risk, right? There's an automaker, you probably heard, right, collecting data without our consent. That's a no-no, right, to me. And then the other thing, you need to have a regular risk assessment, a thorough assessment to identify and prioritize the risk. And then we all should have, David mentioned about, you got to have a strategy. Marketing is not just spending, just to, generating content. It's about having a holistic strategy to really bring your voice, right? Bring your value to the market that's aligned with your ideal customers. And then you need to have a policy or framework that really drives ethical AI, right? If you use AI, you want to make sure you're ensure the compliance with regulation like GDPR, HIPAA, many others. And then you want to make sure you constantly monitoring that, with human, I would say, oversights. It's not just, hey, I got AI now, I could get rid of my entire marketing team. Let AI do this. This is not going to be a good strategy. It's not strategy at all, right? You all know in recent years, Google faced criticism for AI-powered facial recognition tech, which was found to have bias against darker-skinned individuals. And then they have since taken steps to improve the diversity of its training data. Data is so important, right? What data you collect, how, if that represents the vast majority of your ideal customer profile, when you make leverage that to make decision or personalize your campaigns. Those are very important for you to understand the nature of data, if that's the right set of data, and then so use them really wisely. It's important.
Yeah, Helen, you led us to this point on very well about what are the biggest risks that companies have to consider and how they manage those risks while using AI. And I've spun those things up, like your pointers on security, data collection, being mindful about it and being transparent to the consumers, to our clients and about prospects about how you put the data to use, because that is very sensitive. David, any thoughts from you on your experiences from your clients? And
Yeah, a few things. One is, what's creepy to me may not be to you, or vice versa. And as I said before, in the US, at least 70% of people said, if you add value to me, I'm comfortable with you using my data, but if you're using it in ways that's inappropriate, goodbye. So, it does start with saying, again, put yourself in the customer's shoes. Are you really adding value to the customer? It's shocking to me how many companies I walk into, I start asking these questions, and that's just not their perspective to start. So you really have to do that. And so there's ways of testing that also. I mean, coming back to the point about test and learn, think about small groups that you can start testing things with and see if you get unsubscribed, see what happens to your open rate. And because the AI tools can enable you to do more testing, test with your own employees and see if you get reactions to them. I mean, at Aetna, yes, we had 50,000 employees, so we had a big base. But everything we did, we tested internally first. So you have to, think about the customer. And I think the risks are going to go up, because one of the things we're going to see more and more of is AI, especially with agents, enabling the sharing of data across parties, giving access to data and sharing data. So for example, if you're Home Depot, you're going to say, okay, you want to renovate your bathroom? Give me a picture of your existing bathroom. Give me 3 pictures from Pinterest that show your style and interest. Tell me about your budget. Tell me about things you want to do. I'll come back to you with 3 different examples with the budgets, and I'll coordinate the actual installation. Home Depot can't do that all by itself. It needs contractors. It needs suppliers. Data about you is going to be moved all around. Think about if Marriott organized a trip for your family to Spain. They can't do it all, but AI can enable that information to move. The challenge is, though, that information is moving. And so what kind of management to the flow of that information, what rights people will have to it, what access will the companies you're sending information to have to your core systems. So the whole understanding of the information ecosystem that you're building and how you're going to manage security, the requirements for that are going to go way up. But on the flip side, there's incredible opportunity to add value. So it is a constant tension. It's only going to get more extreme over time. And it does come back to customer value, real customer value.
Yeah, I mean, as good as it sounds as a great opportunity, it is also knowing, because as you said, there are risks, and very importantly, customer data related risk, and which is where people worldwide have started to talk about governance so strongly around data. I know there's a lot of talk around this. Experts, leaders are on to be working on this. Agencies, governing bodies are trying to put the right structure, right processes, right laws and rules around it. But I don't know. My feeling says that this is all still work in progress, and as we move forward, we'll see how governance becomes stricter around the use of these things.
Actually, I'm sorry, Arwinder, just a point about Grazitti, actually, which I think we are on a Grazitti webinar, and I want to give you guys credit because I've seen with companies who you work with, one of the things that you guys do is you don't easily get caught up with the cool stuff that AI can do. You always take them down to what's the state of your data? How are we going to set up that data? How are we going to manage it? Like the stuff that companies may find boring, but it's essential. It's absolutely essential. And if you get it right, there's so much it enables you to do. And your teams, are very good, whether it's with Search Unify, setting up, high-powered knowledge management system for chatbots and stuff. You get down to the data and you force companies to confront their situation and you address it. And that's the right point of view. So I do want to give you guys credit for that.
Thank you so much.
I would echo what David said. I've been a long time a Grazitti customer. I really love the fact that you're always on time, deliver everything that, we talk about what needs to be done. You always make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we absolutely want always try to start by asking our customers questions because before we start even trying to aim to give them solutions. A lot of our time we first spend in gathering and knowing about that, which is what David was saying. Personalization, ask questions. And as a marketing team in Grazitti, we're trying and becoming smarter to ask this information in subtle ways than ever before, in smarter, creative ways. I think one question which is on every marketer's mind today, there's so much written about it already, but it's never a question which is repetitive. How has the success criteria for marketing changed in an AI era? What are the KPIs that marketers today are going behind to measure, to gauge the impact of their tactics, their campaigns? How is AI being used to, evaluate the performance metrics of marketing? I love this, and I'm so eager to hear what you think. I'm going to take nuggets from there.
Well, David talked so much about customer value earlier, right? I absolutely agree with that, but it's easier to be said than done when it comes to delivering that customer value. You need to have some measurable metrics like, MQL, the SQL, for those who don't know, is a marketing qualified lead, and the sales qualified lead is campaign reach, engagement, right? That's ROI on ROI on events if you're going there. But we're not in the new era, right? That's the era that we have to focus on disruption. I mentioned a fresh way of thinking and connecting with people in a much deeper level, right? And you talk about personalization earlier, and then we have to create that emotional experience that resonate with our ideal customer. So how do you measure that in the new landscape? I would say through word of mouth, personalization, or maybe trustworthy interaction. Ideally, ultimately to me is like customer testimonials, referrals are the true indication of success, or your NPS, right? You're doing the survey and then CSAT score. Those are the real, those are, if you achieve those target, that's where the rubber meets the road for marketing.
Yeah, I think, look, all of these measures have been measures for marketing, and marketing's got to deliver for the business. And the metrics that drive a business are the metrics that drive a business. What I think changes in AI is not the measures that for the business, it's just marketing can do more things. So first of all, marketing can play a broader role, for example, in being the wingman for a sales team in terms of managing all the way down through a lead funnel, for example. And so there's more that marketing can do beyond just the qualified leads, but taking things all the way down to saying, are you even getting proposal opportunities? And so you can measure down to that. Marketing can do more to drive engagement because it can act more quickly on data that's saying somebody may have a problem, may have disengaged, whatever, and jump on that and drive engagement. So there's new things marketing can do, and so therefore, whatever those business metrics are. The other side of this is that AI can enable you to measure things better because AI tools can stitch data together better than we could have before. So you could now actually do a better job of matching identity flows throughout your channels to actually be a better gauge of attribution and understanding things. And some of the newer tools from Google, Salesforce, Adobe, I mean, they're all working on this and they're making progress. So marketing doesn't have to stop at a high point in the funnel. There's more that can be measured. So I think as we think about the metrics of performance, let's think about how can marketing deliver and improve and support the business goals and have a broader sense of what's possible, and then use AI tools to also say, can we do a better job of creating the capability to measure that impact? So I don't think it's brand new measures. I mean, all of those are measures that are there. It's just marketing can do more and we can measure more.
That's, I think that with AI or tools can help break these silos, right? Giving us a holistic view and better collaborate cross-functionally for sure.
It was.
I totally agree. Marketing's performance metrics have always been from MAL to opportunity all the way to see through the funnel at each stage how the lead progresses. But I have seen that practiced, and we observed that, and we live that day in day out at Grazitti as well, that putting AI to use, actually marketeers can measure that by how much of efficiency has been brought up. The same metrics but efficiency, the speed, because we're using the technology to our leverage, we have to be really speedier to market now. So speed, efficiency, and how much of cost efficiency or process efficiency go. So I think, as you said, David, it's their cost of acquisition, helping sales achieve, business achieve, all those were there, but it would take a lot more manual effort. The data were in silo. It was a little more challenging for us as a marketer to comprehend the data, but now AI empowers us to give a single view, dashboards, and so on. And now, therefore, our vision forward is to drive more efficiency, more speed, and more agility in market, because we can do so much of testing as we prove and run our campaigns. We can always keep fine-tuning. So yes, those are my takes, but I hope the audience did get this point, is because I watched some of the audience already popping up the question around this point. Do tell us about the metrics, the KPIs, the performance indicators. And I think, thank you, Helen, thank you, David, for those nice suggestions and those advices, and marketers can take those. We are left with 7 more minutes, but I want to ask one last question. How do you think marketing leaders can bridge the gap between marketing, sales, and success? Is the CMO role that we all play is going to be becoming an AI officer role because of the increasing influence of AI marketing? What's your take on that?
I don't think the concept of an AI officer is very temporary, because AI should be flowing through not just marketing, but many functions. Legal. I mean, think about all the documents that a legal team deals with, and using AI to be able to interpret all of those documents, get flags and all of that. So I think there are companies now who are setting up chief AI officers to get the infrastructure in place, get experiments going, think about how to manage all the risks, guidelines, guardrails, all of that. I think that's fine. And that doesn't have to be marketing. But marketing leaders have to have at least 3 things in mind for them to be more effective. And there's such great opportunity in this area. One is they do have to understand the art of the possible. So they should be not just simply taking orders, but being able to go to sales, to go to product management and say, we can do these things that you didn't realize before. The cost of doing that is dramatically lower. Our ability to personalize is dramatically better. So they can raise the art of the possible. But, and this is a huge but, not just for the case of saying we can, so we should. The second thing is they've got to be the ones pounding on the table about customer value, of saying the things we want to do with AI have to be things that actually resonate with customers, that hit them the right timing, the right emotion, the right way to educate them, make it easy for them to act as a result of our sending them something. So they have to bring that to the table. And then the third is thinking about the data through the bloodstream and thinking, okay, as a marketer, what data do I have? How can I take advantage of that? What more data could I access if I asked customers things? If I integrated with my call center data? Can I also create more data through more testing? Test and learn, test and learn. You're feeding data into your AI. So those perspectives of marketers stepping up because they can expand the art of the possible, bringing the customer view relentlessly to the table, and then thinking about how do I expand the data arsenal appropriately that I have to work with. Those, to me, are the priorities. I see that with clients I'm working with, and those who can step up to that can have a lot more impact.
Yeah, let me add one thing, right? In my Ascend Your Startup, I introduced the concept of customer room. So to me, that's the best way of bridging cross-functional gaps, right? Building customer rooms is an exercise that really aligns cross-functional time around customer experience and hold them accountable. If you think about the customer adoption room is owned by customer success team, that is where you put your customers under crawl, walk, run and measure their adoption maturity. Marketing can leverage AI to better understand key drivers of adoption maturity and help really accelerate time to value. And the customer expansion room is owned by the sales team. This is where you identify upsell, cross-sell opportunities. And then for each of the customer, and marketing can leverage AI, come up with competitive analysis and generate more personalized interaction for expansion. And then the customer advocacy role can be owned by marketing, right? This is where marketing should really turn every customer into a referenceable customer, leverage AI to create relevant use cases and repeatable sales assets. To me, as David mentioned, marketing, the role has shifted to 3 A's today, right? Adaptive, that's more, got to be your strategic focus rather than doing repetitive content generation. It needs to be more analytical. It needs to really understand where exactly you are at, where you want to be, and make it measurable. It needs to be authentic, right? To stand out, you don't jump out of the page. You have to be authentic and have your unique brand voice, providing that unique value to your customers. I don't think CMO and Chief AI Officer would ever merge. It should never be merged. As a matter of fact, I see more probably CRO and CMO being merged rather than the Chief AI Officer being merged as a Chief Marketing Officer. I do think that CMO needs to understand technology better so that they can collaborate closely with their counterparts, executives, rather than being replaced by a technology officer.
Wow, I love those words. I love some of the words you use. Thank you so much. I personally tried the customer room strategy. I love the words you use. David, win-win for sales. That's going to be another word we will use. Very, very, very useful. And 3 is adaptive, analytical, authentic. Summarizes so beautifully. Well, this has been so immersive, such an immersive conversation. I've been enjoying it. And I think we just got close to the hour. 1 more minute left, but I don't know, do we have time to take any of the questions that our participants on the show would have asked? Let me check if I can ask 1 or 2 questions. Somebody asked the question, Aaron Taylor, asking us, marketing and sales alignment has always been a challenge. In 2025, what practical steps can organizations take to bridge this gap effectively and drive revenue more effectively? Maybe we can spend 1 or 2 minutes to answer this. Anybody would like to take? Bridging sales and marketing gap in 2020.
I talked about customer room earlier. Honestly, try that. It really works effectively when you put yourself in your customer shoes. And if sales taking the customer expansion room while marketing taking the customer advocacy room, they work very closely with each other. You can see tremendous amount of effect. If you want to get more information, you can DM me I have a whole chapter in my book talking about how you will make it happen. Yeah.
I'm sure people will DM you and David both. This has been such a lovely interaction. David, your thoughts on this?
I think we covered it pretty well, and I love the notion of the customer room. I'd call it a demand center, and I think there's a lot of opportunities to bring the data together in a single place with people working together to understand. And now there's tools. One of my clients uses AI tools to constantly scan the outside environment to hear about things like, earnings issues, tariffs affecting them. Are they opening up new offices? Are they launching new product lines? So marketing can bring in a lot of intelligence into that tools are enabling now.
Fantastic. I think we have to now take a pause and stop because we're up the hour, but this has been such a fabulous discussion. Thank you so much, David. Lovely talking to you. Thank you so much, Helen. It was such a pleasure being on this show with you, listening to your insights. And I have personally taken a lot of tidbits from your advice, and I'm sure so have the audience in this webinar. I would like to really thank all the lovely people who took time and joined us today. Thank you so much. Stay connected. Stay with us in this journey. And if you want to continue to watch this webinar again, we will soon be posting it on demand again. So with that, I would like to sign off. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.